To the October 14th, 2021 meeting of the Camden County Board of Education. Ask if there is any consideration for open session agenda changes.
Yes, sir. Could we remove board spotlight and action item D?
Okay. Anyone else have any changes for the agenda? If not, I entertain a motion to accept the agenda as amended. Motion by Ms. Idlet to accept the October 14th, 2021 meeting of the Camden County Board of Education as amended. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. You could please take a moment of silence. Thank you. Public comment? Does anyone sign up?
No, sir.
Thank you. Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, will you lead us in prayer tonight?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Open session to appear.
No one has requested to appear.
Thank you. Consent agenda. Motion by Ms. Idlet to accept the consent agenda. Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Information updates, new high school project. MB Con and Mosley Architects, representatives.
Good evening. I'm not Rick Ott. I'm Bill Graham, Executive Vice President. I've worked with Rick for about 30 years. Rick had a health issue this week and is unable to attend. He is doing fine, nothing to worry about, but that's why I'm here substituting for him tonight to bring you this update on the high school project. And Ashley Dennis is with me with Mosley Architects. We're going to start with a design update. And Ashley, the floor is yours.
Absolutely. So first thing I want to just kind of run through where we are progress-wise. The last time we were here was, I believe, in July. And so this is kind of a run through of where we are. So we've had a lot of meetings with staff, engineering meetings with Larry and his staff to make sure that we're putting the right systems in, everything's laying out. We've had a lot of CTE meetings, laying out actual equipment in spaces. And so we're basically at right around 90% construction documents. And so those are the documents that are really detailed. They don't have pretty colors on them. They're literally the documents that will go out to construction when the time comes. And then we have submitted to 2 of the major agencies because we want to make sure we're incorporating all of their comments in before we get too far down the road. So we've been submitting to them along the way. And so we've submitted to NCDOI, which is really the code items to make sure we're meeting all code. And then NCDPI, which is making sure that we're meeting all things related to schools being built in North Carolina, that we're meeting all of their requirements. Timmons Group, that is doing all of our site work, has received erosion control and stormwater permits. And the encroachment permit, which kind of minutia there, but that one is pending. We don't see any reason that that won't be approved, but it hasn't been as of right now. And then we're going to go into detail a little bit later in this presentation on actual schedule, but the final bid documents we're looking to have ready in early December. So I want to run through the site plan. I know that many times when we've come, we've been kind of zoomed in on the building, talking about a lot of layout things. So now that the site plan is a lot further along, not much has changed in the overall layout and the circulation, but I do want to point out some things related to some of the ways that people will move around the site, as well as some of the larger CTE items that are going to be on the outside of the building, because I know there have been questions about where they would be located. And then as we go into the building, you can see how they're associated with the site. So just a reminder that front of the school, facing the road, we have our car riders that come in this direction. Our bus riders come into this lot here. This is our service entrance to the loading dock and the kitchen access off of this drive as well. Then we also have our student drivers. They come into these lots over here, and we do have a way to divide that traffic. So that was really important to keep those groups separate so that we don't have a lot of different drivers in the same location. Then we have a way that everyone can cross over to the athletic fields. This is, more of the main student entrance, and so that kind of becomes a boulevard there to come over to the back half of the site for all of the athletic fields. The two items on the exterior of the building that we hadn't shown as clearly before were the greenhouse location, as well as the fire truck pad pull up. So you can, if you look real closely, you can see that there's actually a curb cut there, so that can easily be parked and moved if it needs to be, but that way it's really adjacent to those particular labs. Next slide. So you can see that the floor plan has not changed a ton. Probably the largest changes have been in that CTE wing, which, just a reminder, is that light purple area. And I'll just kind of go through and just give a refresher on where everything's located. So everything to the left, that's the front that faces the road. You can see the number 2 there, that's the high school administration area. And then the general classroom wing is the yellow up to the north here. We have our EC classrooms also laid out in there, along with that larger collab space that we are connecting back to the CTE wing. Then we have what we've kind of referred to as the bridge space, which is our media center, and the layouts in there. That's another area that we've worked to lay out so that it works better for the district. So there have been some slight changes in there. We have our guidance and clinic in that area as well. And then the pink area to the furthest to the lower there is the early college admin, and then that's their suite along with the blue, which is JLP, their 2 classrooms that then open up for all of their competitions. And again, just making sure that we're meeting all of their requirements they have for any competitions that need to occur here. And then we move to the back of the school. We've got our athletics throughout here. So again, you can start seeing that we've worked to get all of the lockers in there, make sure all the toilets lay out appropriately, work with athletics to make sure that kind of the flow and the storage are in the right spots. Then our cafeteria and dining area. This is kind of that main parking out here for students and student drop-off and event parking. Again, working with child nutrition to make sure that all of our equipment in the cafeteria or in the dining work together, making sure that we have the serving lines appropriate for how the high school runs all of their lunches. And then our CTE area and our science wing. So we've got our 3 sciences working to make sure that we're meeting all DPI requirements there. They do have pretty strenuous requirements on how high school science labs are laid out and making sure that works for how the district will utilize them. Then we've got our art and band here at the kind of entrance to that wing, and then all of our labs and their associated classrooms. All of those are 15 and 17 throughout there. So we have all of our spaces. And so you can see here, this larger one is the ag lab. And so the greenhouse sitting out here, that gives association they're not having to cross any parking or drives to get to that. And then our fire, I believe, is this one up here. And again, you can see that the fire truck would be parked almost directly outside of that lab. And so then this is a rendering It hasn't changed so much. We have been working closely with NBCon to go through some exercises on keeping costs down in kind of the overall design. So there's still some of the big elements, but we have kind of simplified some things in how, the overall building functions, where the barred units are, things like that. But this is the overall appearance of the school at this stage. And then this is just a closer look to you can see those two separate entrances, the high school entrance and the early college entrance. They're off of the visitor lot.
Okay. Gives me a bit of a schedule update. We had originally planned, and we did go forward with an early site package, seeking bids on that about a month and a half ago. Two things happened. Unfortunately, the hope for savings didn't occur. We had two bidders drop out at the last minute. Those bids came in over the budget, but simultaneously USDA made a strong recommendation that no contracts be awarded until the USDA loan is approved. So those bids were rejected, and we feel that's a good thing that USDA made that, because hopefully the market will moderate, prices will mitigate when we rebid after the first of the year. Ashley touched on completion of documents, with construction documents finishing in early December. It's always a challenge trying to bid projects through the Christmas holidays. The industry typically shuts down for about a 10-day period from starting a couple days before Christmas through New Year's. So we likely will not be, we will not be receiving bids until sometime mid to late January, vetting those bids, and then assembling the guaranteed maximum price proposal to bring back to you probably in February of next year. I'll touch on budget, and Ashley introduced the topic of cost. I want to put some information up here for you, and I'm not going to read all this to you. As you can tell by my gray hair or lack thereof, I've been doing this a long time, spent a large part of my career in the estimating side, and I've never seen a marketplace like this. The way prices are just, it's almost like spot pricing, all of a sudden jumping up in cost here and there in unexpected places. But one key statistic I'll point to is the Associated General Contractors, that's the AGC, have been tracking prices for almost 50 years. March of 2020 to March of 2021 was the highest annual inflation in construction costs they had ever seen. March was the highest rate ever for 1 month, and unfortunately it has continued on. Two things are happening: prices are rising, as well as delivery times are being stretched out, and we're seeing these things happen almost overnight. We're working closely with Ashley and her team on bid strategies as we prepare to go to the market early next year. How can we package this best? How do we approach the market best to control costs? And we're looking at design options, as Ashley mentioned. We've looked at simplifying some things, looking at alternate materials, still maintaining the integrity of the educational program, maintaining the integrity of the design, maintaining quality, not cutting corners, but just looking every way possible to control costs for you. This is what I call market wildcards. And you see the first one highlighted in green. The construction market is very hot right now. And by hot, I mean there's a lot of work out there. If the federal government drops the hammer on this $1.2 trillion infrastructure package, it's going to put more pressure on, we're going to have to work harder to control the cost of your project. 5 years ago, I thought supply chain logistics was a catchy name for a course. I'm learning that it's now the demon in my life, is trying to figure out when we can get materials. It's a challenge right now, but again, we're working through these problems. And the third one, I think everybody's probably read enough or heard enough in the news that there are labor shortages out there. So it's a challenge right now. We are doing all we can. Ashley and her team are doing all they can to control the cost and look for ways to economize in your project to maintain the budget. It's not all bad news. USDA came back and actually reduced the interest rate a little bit for you. And there is potential additional funding available in the state budget. And the last part is this schedule delay, we're hoping gives a chance for prices to stabilize a little bit. Again, we've seen a lot of price spikes over the last 6 months, but we are seeing some areas. You may be aware that lumber went up 400% at one point and is back down, not to where it was before COVID, but certainly a much more reasonable number. We're hoping the same things happen with steel and some of the other commodities. But we really won't know what the cost is until we actually go to the market and see what the market says this project is worth. Overall, if all goes well with the bids in January, February, we are still on track to deliver the project to you in the summer of 2023. And that concludes our presentation. Ashley and I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
So you're bidding the steel package like separate, it's like its own.
Yeah, we'll be taking direct bids, and the steel will be it will typically be a separate bid by steel fabricators.
Right.
And we typically get bids both from fabricators, erectors separately, and then we get combination bids for furnished and erected, and we'll analyze those to get the best possible.
So
Package.
you already got an approved bid list? Of
We have
PVC?
not developed that yet. We're working on that.
That should go out in December?
Pardon?
That should go out in December, you're anticipating?
Yeah, probably. And we're waiting on permits and for design completion, and without any hiccups, yes, sir, we should be advertising probably mid-December with a mid to third week of January bid date.
Okay.
We want to give the bidders adequate time to thoroughly prepare their bids. And also, as I've said, we're hoping that moving into the new year, people are going to be looking to acquire some backlog early in the year, which can drive prices down a little bit.
Hopefully, before the government jumps in and tries to buy all the steel up, like you said.
Actually, the main culprit in that is Amazon. And I was speaking with some people earlier today. We've been hearing this for some time, but Amazon built over 120 million square feet of warehouses in less than 2 years. And Fails Management, FMI, put that in perspective. That was the equivalent of building 6 new Disney Worlds, including all the hotels and all the support facilities in a 2-year period.
That's a lot of money, but it'll pale in comparison to that 1.2 trillion.
Yeah.
That can buy a lot of steel. And it ain't a 3.5 trillion they're talking about now too. If that goes through.
The original plan was to do the early site work bid and then come in later with that, or are you expecting any problems now that you're gonna kind of have to concurrently bid site work with construction with everything back to back versus the original plan?
No, that's why I say we're looking at the schedule. The idea was to have an early site package and try and get that site knocked out to get a quicker start on the construction. But based on our schedule analysis, provided we can get the bids in acceptable level in February, start construction in March, we should still be okay. Now, I'll go back to that word, supply chain logistics. That's, assuming we can get materials on time. And again, we're hoping that this situation moderates somewhat in the coming year.
And you said we had 3 bidders, or we ended up with 3 that stayed in and 2 more
We
that
had,
dropped out for the site work?
I think we actually had 4, if I'm not mistaken. Was it 4?
I think it was 4.
Yeah, I think there were 4, but 2 dropped out at the last minute, including, I don't mind mentioning the name Barnhill. They actually went out and did a thorough investigation, and frankly, we were hoping they would have a bid. They awarded 2 larger jobs 2 days before the bid date for this. They called us and apologized, and it goes to labor shortage. They said they didn't have the people to do this job if they got. So they dropped out. Hopefully that situation will change. And both of the bidders that had to withdraw, hopefully they will be back in the market in January.
You mentioned that the current bids that you did open came in over budget.
Yes, sir.
How much over budget?
They're about 10 to 15% over the target number.
Was that due to just pricing in this market, or was that because there was more cut and fill than what we had anticipated originally?
I think it's more, I think it's a combination of a couple of things. It wasn't due to a change in quantities. I think it was the current market conditions and uncertainty. You know, one of the things we've all seen is the price of fuel rising. And that for an earthwork contractor is a big deal.
Right.
Is what they're going to spend on fuel. So they were speculating on that. And
There's a lot of
the
dirt.
two
there.
bidders that dropped out at the end, and people through the network of contractors, they find out who's bidding. We don't tell them who's bidding and who isn't, but they find out. And when those two dropped out, as we use the expression in the industry, they didn't have to sharpen their pencils quite as much.
Yeah.
So we're hoping to have more competition when we go back to the marketplace. Other questions? Well, we hope to come back to you after the first of the year with some good news. And our team's going to work diligently to find the most economical solution and give you the quality building and fulfill your needs. We thank you for this chance to update you on the project tonight.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Larry Lawrence to give us information on propane bus conversion options.
Good evening. I put some information in your packet this week. One of our county commissioners has asked us to look into the possibility of converting all our buses to propane. We've had this discussion several times over the last 18 years that I've been here. We also, as in letter that you have is from DPI, they do not recommend it at this time. One, the cost would be passed on to the county, and two, a lot of our engine manufacturers don't recognize it. So I think at this time it's just not feasible to do it cost-wise or anything else. So I'd just like to get your recommendation, what you'd like me to do.
I'm just curious what the cost of the conversion would be.
I can't convert them.
Our engine manufacturer doesn't want them converted. They won't honor any warranties on them.
Do we know what the difference is between a diesel and a propane for a new? Because DPI said if you wanted to do it, you'd have to just buy new as you replace your fleet.
I don't know. They've only done it on selected areas of town. I know the electric bus they put together was $500,000. The one in Charlotte that's running around. I do not know what the propane conversions are. So, no, sure don't.
All right.
Can you maybe research what a new, not converted, just if we bought a new propane bus just to appease it, we've looked at every option and
I will do that for you.
and the associated costs, because obviously we can't fill them up out of a bulk diesel tank in the back of the shop that we have now. So
That is
there'd be
correct.
a whole lot of ancillary costs as well that have to be thought of. But
Yep. I'd be more than happy to do that for you.
I'd just like to go ahead and put it to rest that we have truly, it's been discussed and investigated several times and it's not cost feasible, but
Right.
now we can say we've done everything looking at it.
Be glad to.
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Lawrence?
No, thank you, Larry.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
We have updates from our student board members.
Okay, so for GPS, the staff dressed in green in honor of Jordan Lee. They also had a luncheon and raised over $500 that they will be donating to the Page and Lee family. The virtual book fair was held at Grandy Primary over the last week. Yesterday was a special dress-up day. Student and staff dressed up as their favorite special class. At CIS, Red Ribbon Week starts on Monday, October 25th. The end of the quarter is October 20th. The report cards come out October 27th. They had a movie night with GPS and would like to thank the RCE theaters volunteers that helped to organize and execute the plan. the Heritage Festival was held October 9th. The virtual book fair ends the 15th. For CMS, they're currently holding a Lego toy drive through the month of October in honor of Kaylee Rios. That will be donated to a nonprofit organization. Fall sports are winding down at the middle school. Soccer and volleyball playoffs start next week, and volleyball finishes up the first week of November. During the week of September 27th, October 1st, Club Council sponsored Start with Hello Week. During Hello Week, students made a commitment to kindness, spread positivity, and took note of what they have in common. The CMS FFA Forest team took place at their first competition of the year. The FFA would next compete in the livestock judging competition on the 9th of November.
For the high school, they would like to congratulate the Camden County Marching Bruins. They placed second in the 2A division at Hickory High School and first place overall at the Edenton Peanut Festival. They have a competition this Saturday at Pasquotank High School and another one on the 30th in Havelock. Homecoming was on September 10th, and Ms. Davis would like to say a big thank you to the cheerleaders and the teachers who made it a huge success. Congratulations to our volleyball, soccer, cross country, and football teams on their successful seasons so far. Our fall seasons will be wrapping up in about a month or so. We have our Dig Pink volleyball game versus Perquimans on October 20th, which is always a great game and fundraiser, so please join us. We had our U.S. Coast Guard Junior ROTC pinning ceremony on October 1st, so congratulations to our 2021 to 2022 cadre. We had our FAFSA information night for seniors last night, where Mrs. Denton from CFNC came to give out all the latest information and answer any student and parent questions. 2021 graduate and former student board member Lizzie Fields spoke to our students on Tuesday about ECU's Honors College. Upcoming events include the end of the 9 weeks on October 20th, Picture Day on October 22nd, the Math 1 check-in testing, pre-ACT on November 3rd, and work keys testing for early graduates on November 17th. For the early college, several CEC students volunteered at the Camden Heritage Festival. Seniors attended the FAFSA meeting Wednesday night. 12 CEC students representing all grade levels will have lunch with Dr. Farrell on October 21st. CEC sophomores will be taking the pre-ACT on November 3rd. And lastly, October is National Principals Month, so we would like to give a shout out to all the awesome principals in Camden County. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, for those updates. Ms. Sally Northey to present our proposed budget for 2021-22 fiscal year.
In your package, you have the proposed budget for the 21-22 school year that we worked on in the spring. But I have finalized it and brought it for approval tonight. The current expense budget is just under 21 million. The capital budget is 405,000, and there was no fund balance appropriated to balance the budget for the year. So not included the ESSER funds that we know we should be getting. ESSER 3, they have not dropped all the money yet, so I didn't include that yet. So of course there'll be adjustments throughout the year. So, are there any questions?
Questions for Ms. Northey?
Welcome.
My recommendation is that you approve the proposed budget for the 2021-2022 fiscal year as presented by Ms. Northleaf.
Motion.
Motion by Ms. Abbott to accept the superintendent's recommendation for the budget of 2021-22 fiscal year as presented by Ms. Northleaf.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heath. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
NCSBA special PLS update. Dr. Farrell.
As you all are aware, state law now requires that you have a policy and that you vote on monthly on a face coverings or masking policy. At a recent meeting, you approved a mitigation plan that includes a hybrid mask requirement, that masking would be required indoors when minimal physical distancing cannot be accomplished. And so we have implemented that plan, the mitigation plan, as you all instructed. It has gone fairly well. There was, like anything that you implement, there's an adjustment period. But it has gone relatively well now. And the number of positive cases and quarantines are continually coming down. And so my recommendation is for you to adopt this new policy and keep the current hybrid mask plan in place, at least for the next 30 days until you're back, or until the next board meeting when you're back together and required to vote again.
Make a motion that we suspend policy 2420 so that we can take action.
A motion by Mr. Purcell that we suspend our current policy 2420 in our policy adoption manual. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heath. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yes, sir. So if there is a second motion to accept the policy that has been presented by Dr. Farrell this evening, or if there's any questions or discussion.
We want to keep the next vote at our next board meeting, which is pushback because of the annual conference, or have a Zoom meeting the week or first week of November.
The requirement is that you consider and vote on the policy on a monthly basis. It doesn't say it has to be every 30 days, so as long as you do it sometime in November.
I don't think it's a timing thing. I think what Jason's getting at, if the numbers continue to come down,
Yeah,
if we could meet earlier to,
yeah, I think that's what it is.
Yes, we could.
We don't, because our next meeting is going to be pushed back in another 7 to 8 days because of the annual conference. So we don't really want to go that long, but I think we're almost where we need to be.
Number was.
Yeah.
So you can consider and take action on it at a special meeting. So, schedule any time on 40 hours notice.
So right now, there's been a motion that has been approved to suspend the policy 2420, which negates our policy to have a review period until a subsequent meeting, so that we can adopt this policy tonight that Dr. Farrell has presented to be in accordance with legislation. So basically, it's a policy to follow our mitigation plan.
Yes.
So that way, it's actual policy of the procedures that we will follow, and not just a procedure set about by the superintendent.
I guess I'll do a motion.
So we have a motion by Mr. Heath to accept the policy for face coverings as presented by Dr. Farrell this evening. Is that a second?
Yeah, second.
Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Can you go ahead and set a special call meeting date now?
At the end of the agenda, we will.
If I may I just add one more quick thing?
Yes, sir.
I think I guess the thing that I'm still hearing from some parents is that that we need to do some work on our mask breaks throughout the day. And so we have a principals meeting tomorrow morning, and that is on the agenda. I want to hear from each of our principals how they're handling that, and then have some discussion about how we can make sure that we are giving as much mask break as possible. And I know it's different at every school. But I did want to be clear about that because I had shared with a few parents that I would make sure the board was aware of that and make sure that our principals are aware, and that we are going to have some discussion about that tomorrow.
Those complaints come across the board, K through 12, or?
No, I would say that they're more K-6.
The K-6 isn't getting enough break?
Well, that's where so that's what I want to make sure of, is when I talk with our principals tomorrow, I want to make sure that we are maximizing mask breaks where we can.
Any further discussion or any other questions on the topic? Grads give letter agreement, Dr. Farrell.
So Grads Give is yes, is a company that reached out to us, and I had a conversation with Ms. Davis and Ms. Stevens about it, and with Cabinet about it, and it was one of those things that at first it almost sounded too good to be true. So we gave it to our attorney's office and had them go through the letter agreement that we would be signing. And basically, there will be a link added to both of the high schools' websites. And if a graduate, and there will be some marketing from this company to Camden County High School and Camden Early College High School graduates, and an encouragement to go onto those websites and give and click on those links to give money back to their school. It can be any amount. They will, how sometimes you'll see like a $5, $10, $15 and other. So they will have that kind of thing on there. 100% of the money that a graduate gives will go directly to the school. If there is a place on there that says if you would like to provide a tip or gratuity type situation to the alumni company or the alumni association to do that, that is only if a graduate clicks on that and gives $1 or $10 or whatever to that. That's the only money that Grads Give will make. 100% of the amount donated will go directly to the school. Ms. Davis and Ms. Stevens were both in agreement. I talked with Sally Norfleet, our finance person, about it. And again, someone in John Leidy's office has reviewed the agreement. Grads Give agreed to every change that we wanted from the attorney. And so I'm bringing that to you all tonight, requesting approval to move forward with this and see if we can get some of our graduates to start giving our two high schools some additional funding.
Do they have any schools that they're working with in North Carolina right now?
Yes, Ms. Davis, I see you nodding. Do you remember the schools? I think it's Union County has voted to do it. Vance. There are several, 3 or 4 that have, and in the last couple of weeks, some new ones have been added. I think part of that is happening is because we now have a retired North Carolina superintendent working for this company, and he knows people throughout the state, and so he's reaching out to say, hey, would you be interested in doing this? I know him, and he reached out to me. That's how I knew about it. And so I think that we might start to see a lot more North Carolina counties doing that.
You want a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right. Motion to approve the superintendent's recommendation.
Motion by Dr. Banks to approve the superintendent's recommendation to participate in the grads give agreement.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Superintendent's recommendations for employment of personnel.
I recommend that you approve the personnel report as amended, as presented by Ms. Anderson in closed session.
Motion by Dr. Banks to accept the superintendent's recommendation for employment as presented and amended by Ms. Anderson in closed session, seconded by Mr. Purcell. Is there any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Announcements. North Carolina School Board Association Annual Conference is Thursday, November the 11th through Friday, November the 12th. Notice that it has been shortened one day. Also, as a reminder, as we approved our calendar for the 21-22 school year, our November board meeting will be held on November the 18th, which is the third Thursday in the month, because the second and fourth Thursday, as in our policy manual, are both holidays. Does anybody have any other business or agenda items?
Can we add a special call meeting for November 4th?
Mr. Purcell has made a request for a special called meeting on November the 4th. If you're asking for a special called meeting, we need to state the purpose, or do we just need to have a called meeting?
Call meeting.
Called meeting. Mr. Purcell has made a request for a called meeting on November the 4th. Set the time at 6:30. Preference of location?
I'm out of town that day, but I can drive back. It's just Kitty Hawk where I'll be.
6:30
I can make
time
that
for you
work.
to get back?
Yeah, I can make that work.
Okay.
Can we do it by Zoom?
As long as we open it to the
As long
public.
as the governor's emergency order remains in place.
I don't see that
Doesn't matter.
change.
Or do you want to just zoom in so you don't have to drive?
Yeah, I was gonna say, how about if he just zooms
Yeah.
in and we still meet in person? I
That's fine.
mean, I like seeing y'all.
Yeah.
I'm fine either way.
Like hanging out.
Just given what it's for, I'd rather meet in person just in case.
Yeah.
But
All right. I'll consider the zooming in, but I'll probably drive back.
Between now and then.
It's not that far. Makes me nervous if you all are meeting and I'm somewhere else.
All right.
Come on now.
So
I trust you completely.
We will announce a called meeting for November the 4th, 2021, 6:30 PM at Camden County High School.
Just to make sure to be clear, when the notice of that meeting is posted, the purpose of the meeting has to be specified.
Just for a called meeting?
Any special meeting requires,
We're doing a called meeting. not
what
a
you're doing, so
special.
you're gonna make it a regular meeting?
Just making a regular called meeting.
You can do that. Then you can conduct any business that comes before the board.
Correct.
you say 6:30.
6:30.
You need a motion?
I've already made the call meeting.
Okay, good.
Good.
Motion to recess, open and return to closed session.
Motion by Mr. Purcell that we recess open session to return to closed.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Heath. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. We're back into closed session. Quick recess.